I'm the Bearded Dragon, and today we're talking about horror movie favorites. Just kidding, it's me, it's Cory. Haha. Hi, welcome to Cory's Corner. And today we are, in fact, talking about horror movie favorites. The horror movie genre has a lot of subgenres in it, and honestly, we'll talk about most of them. For real. But first, let's say hello to the chat. Hail to Vince Womack. He says, greetings and salutations. Caress the like button and hug the subscribe. That's right, buddy. Get it on. Put the mask back. He's like, put the mask back on. Fine. I will. Ask and ye shall receive. Can barely see out this thing, man. Wow. There. The mask is back on. And I am once again the Bearded Dragon. Yeah. It's amazing what you can find at thrift shops and stuff during Halloween season. Spooktober. Rock and roll with the Spooktober, baby. Yeah. Snail Messiah says, now you're the Grand Dragon. I'm the Bearded Dragon. You turd. And by the way, hail, Snail Messiah. Hail to the snail. What is up, buddy? I got your email. Haven't had time to respond yet. Sorry. I'll get back. I'll get to that very soon. Yes, indeed. I feel like this needs to be adjusted upwards. Oh, look, then you can see my tacks in the wall. Sweet. Now, horror movies. Yeah, I can't wear this right now. Sorry. You're going to have to deal with all this scary ugliness. And I'm going to put this back down. So, like, yeah, look, I'm normally framed now. But, okay, so horror movies are like a love of mine. Okay. And we could talk about all of the giant franchises, you know, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, Child's Play, etc., etc. You get the idea. But I'm going to talk about some of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I'm going to ask you guys to tell me what your favorite in each genre is as we hit it. Because why not step it subgenre by subgenre, right? So the first subgenre that comes to mind is slasher flicks. And we have had a lot of slasher flicks throughout the years, right? So I would have to say my favorite slasher flick is probably the first Saw movie. Honestly, that's a slasher flick. I know it's more of a psychological thriller / horror movie, but it's totally a slasher flick, and I loved it. It actually inspired me in some ways to become a horror person, actor, creator. Whatever I do, my art form is many and various. Yes, indeed. Vince Womack says, I don't really have any favorites at all. That's fair. Snail Messiah says, I'm not into horror. I don't even have a mirror in my bathroom. The sight would be too much for me to handle. I understand those feelings. I've, of course, desensitized myself over the years, having to look at this camera and see myself repeatedly. It's kind of ridiculous. All right, since the chat's not big on horror, I'll talk about the next genre and just keep on rolling with it. Man, I wish Trina was here. She would enjoy this conversation. Now, my favorite paranormal horror movie, dealing with ghosts and stuff like that. Most people would probably come out and say, like, many of them would probably say Poltergeist or Amityville, something along those lines. Or if they're a bit younger, they would probably say Paranormal Activity number 75, and people still believe that's real. But anyway, my favorite ghost movie would probably be, oh, that's a tough one. Because I really liked 13 Ghosts, or the 13th Ghost, or 13 Ghosts with Tony Shalhoub. I liked that one, but that one wasn't so much a traditional ghost horror movie, so that one doesn't really fit. So I'd have to go ahead and say that my favorite ghost movie, I don't know if I have one. I'm going to have to go with one of the cliches, honestly, and go with probably Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist #1. Just saying. Snail Messiah says, I do like Ash versus Evil Dead. Yes, that is so good. Man, those things are like a genre in their own. The Ash, everything. Like, I keep wanting to finish it off Ketchum because my son's really into Pokemon, but the Army of Darkness was probably my favorite comedy horror movie because it's fantastic. It's of course based off of it's a follow-up to Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 or whatever. If it's in there somewhere. And then, you get Ash versus the Evil Dead, the TV show, which just took it up a fucking notch, dude. That was so good. Like, the comedy wasn't as laid in as Army of Darkness, which is totally fine with me, but yeah. Vince Womack, this is my boomstick. Yes. It's great. I love Ash, and I love Bruce Campbell in general. The chin. I don't have anywhere near a big of chin as he does, even with my beard. Like, man. Him and Jay Leno could have, like, sword fights with their chins. Ding! Snail Messiah says, Bruce Campbell, I'm not gay for him, but he is such a part of my life. Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Xena and Hercules. He was in those? I have to rewatch those and figure that out. In the Western he did. My favorite Bruce Campbell role, personally, outside of Ash, is Sam Axe from Burn Notice. 100%. But anyway, if you haven't seen, speaking of comedic horror movies, if you haven't seen my review on Renfield, go watch it. That's all I'll say on that. Really? Vince Womack says he played a thief in Hercules and Xena. I will have to watch those again. It's been a long time. I think I watched original airing of Hercules, not very much Xena. But anyway, let's talk monster movies. Yeah. I love monster movies. And I'm not talking like Godzilla, but monster horror movies, right? And we've had a lot of them. And this includes, like, of course, Alien, Gojira. Those are great, but those aren't the type of monster movies I'm talking about. I love Godzilla, don't get me wrong. But horror-wise, my favorite monster movie for horror is The Thing. 100%. That thing was just crazy, in your face the whole time. It was good. I liked it a lot. Not so much any of the redos or whatever you want to call it, but the one with my brain is breaking on his name. You know who he is. He's super famous. I shouldn't have to tell you. He was in The Thing. Yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing is great. John Carpenter's The Thing is the one I like. But when you're talking about monster movies, you also have to, yes, Kurt Russell. Thank you, Vince Womack. Kurt Russell, because my brain doesn't work the way it's supposed to for whatever reason. But anyway, when you're talking about monster movies, you also have to kind of delineate, like, there's the serial killer horror movies, which some people classify as kind of a monster movie, but I don't. It's because they're not monsters. That's like Leatherface, and stuff like that. And I don't consider those guys monsters. Not even Jason Voorhees is a monster. Freddy Krueger's on the fence, mostly because he could be. But anyway. Now, I will take a moment to talk about my least favorite monster movies of all time. And that would be Creature 2011. That's my second least favorite monster horror movie that I've ever seen. That movie was trash. No amount of intoxication helped that movie in any way whatsoever. Let's see. Hold on. Snail Messiah's got to follow up on the Xena Hercules thing that I overlooked on accident. He says he was autism in Xena and Hercules. He also did cons where he had a Q&A session, Bruce versus the crowd. If you got him, he gave you $1, but he was 100% Bruce and not too nice. All right. He also says, monster movie, try the one and only Danish monster movie from the 60s, Reptilicus. Reptilicus. That sounds like something I would probably watch for sure. And then my least favorite monster movie of all time, you can go watch the review on, is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It was really, really bad. And if you want to see my full fervor regarding that, then go on and watch my review of Blood and Honey. Yeah, because that was... Yeah, it's worth the 4 minutes it took me to rant on it. But, if you're talking about favorite horror movies, most people, or favorite monster horror movies, most people would probably get mad at you if you didn't bring up Aliens, or the entire franchise thereof. And I love these. The science fiction horror is fantastic. And they are classics in my mind, but they're not my favorites. You know what I mean? Like, you can have a ranked scale, and I would say Aliens is maybe third or fourth favorite, like, sci-fi monster, very specific subgenre. I like them. Don't get me wrong. And there's a lot of people out there that would be like, what? But it's fine. It's totally fine. Okay? Okay. I also will take a second to say that I liked the first Leprechaun movie, but I did not really care for any of the sequels. Leprechaun in the Hood was a good one, just because. Vince just dropped the link for the Blood and Honey review right here in the live chat. Definitely go check that out. I will be watching and reviewing more horror movies very, very soon. My next review will be live tomorrow. I'll do it live tomorrow. I don't have a time yet, but it will be tomorrow. And that will be on Pet Sematary Bloodlines. When you're speaking of Pet Sematary, I'll talk about the original Pet Sematary. While a lot of people talked about it varied from the book, blah, 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 it was a Stephen King movie, first of all, so that's going to happen. He doesn't stay true to his own shit ever. Even when he doesn't do it well. But that being said, the original Pet Sematary movie was good. I liked that movie. But it in no way, shape, or form ranks up with my favorites in its genre, because in my opinion, that's a zombie movie. And if we're talking zombie movies, then my top 3 zombie movies would be Dawn of the Dead? That was the 90s one. See, the Night of the Living Dead and stuff like that was... It might have been. Hold on. Ba-da-ba-da. No. The 1990 Night of the Living Dead is actually the one I'm thinking of. I think. Let me double check. That is not the one I was thinking of. That guy is not who I was thinking of at all. Was it? Yeah, it had to be. Da, 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 da. Yeah, it was Dawn of the Dead from 2004. Yep. Dawn of the Dead 2004. I know. There are like 400 of the Dead movies. Yep. But Dawn of the Dead from 2004 is good. I like that. I really do like this movie though. I mean, I'm just sharing the screen because I didn't think I was going to have to do this today. But Snail Messiah says, I consider The Cable Guy a horror movie, psychological horror. That's fair. Snail Messiah says, are zombie movies horror or their own thing altogether? They're technically horror because they cover, you know, monsters or, horrible, horrible shit. But this one was one of my favorites. Oh, what the fuck is that? Just shut that off. Come on. Thank you. And it was because they got blood on their shirts. Dumbasses. Zoom. Yeah. This one was great. With Ving Rhames and shit. That's good. Vince Womack says the original was actually a social commentary on consumerism. That doesn't surprise me, to be honest. Yeah, Dawn of the Dead 2004 is probably my favorite zombie movie, honestly. Favorite zombie video game is Left 4 Dead though. Like that shit's yeah. I love the first one. The second one's not bad, but let's be honest, I prefer the first one. The first, not Left 4 Dead. Yeah, that's the game I was trying to talk about. But all right, so Snail Messiah says best zombie show was Z Nation. Never saw that one. Vince Womack said not Shaun of the Dead. I love Shaun of the Dead. When you talk comedy horror with zombies, Shaun of the Dead's top of its class, but it's way more comedy than it is horror, in my opinion. But Jason Fox from 540 Studios, hail. He says Zack Snyder and James Gunn did Dawn of the Dead 2004 film. Yeah, well, even shitheads can get things right every once in a while, bro. We've seen it time and time again. Terrible people can put out great content, and that's what I'll call it, content. That bugs some people when you call it content. What was that guy's name? Something Scorsese or whatnot. I don't know. It's content. It's hardly an art form anymore. Anyway, yeah, I really did like that a lot. It's ridiculous. Vince Womack says I could contribute more if you cover sci-fi movies. Maybe sometime in the future we'll talk about sci-fi movies. I'll make Mondays like favorite entertainment shit / mental health Mondays. Yeah, stagger them out. It'll be good. It'll be a good time. Some of my favorite horror movies are actually like not the most popular ones either, because like I loved Pumpkinhead as a monster movie. That was it was crazy and original and it was fantastic. And the monster looked fucking amazing in Pumpkinhead, honestly. And then I know a lot of people talk about like Hellraiser and stuff, but I really liked the Wishmaster series as well. I feel like that one was way underrated, honestly. I thought the Wishmaster series of movies was great. And in that same vein, like my favorite horror movie series, like collection altogether, would be Phantasm. I think they had like 7 Phantasm movies. Hail to Cremator over on the Rumble side. Yeah, I had to read that in order to get my brain to say the word Rumble. It was weird. But Cremator says Pumpkinhead was also Stan Winston's first film as a director. He did a great job. Like, honestly, that was good. Snail Messiah says 2003 Open Water was a real horror movie to me. I'm allergic to shark bites and being left in the middle of the ocean. Dude, that was the most boring movie I've ever seen in my life. I think if I was given the choice between Blood and Honey and Open Water, I would watch Blood and Honey again. Like, if we're being real, and that was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. But when it comes to like bad over boring, I'll take bad every day. Like, oh my gosh, that was so terrible. Man, got a lot of phlegm today. Keep coughing and shit. It's ridiculous. And by the way, if you'd like to be a part of this discussion or join our live streams at any point in the future on Mondays and Saturdays, then join the Talks a Lot Town Square Gilded. The link is in the description. Check it out. It's not the most active community, but we have a good time. Vince Womack says Clive Barker has apparently some great psychological horror stories under his belt. Okay. Clive Barker, huh? How many windows do I have? How many tabs do I have? Yeah. Clive Barker. Oh my. I don't know if I'm allowed to show that shit. Okay, so Clive Barker worked on Book of Blood. Haven't seen that one. Nightbreed, I think I've seen once. Farewell to Flesh and Candyman. Dude, those are such great. Yeah, the Hellraiser Chronicles. Jason Fox says, I'm on a break from streaming this week, and it's my birthday today. So relaxing. Well, happy birthday, Jason. I hope it's a good one for you, and I hope you have a good time relaxing. That sounds wonderful. So it does seem like he's actually done some recognizable horror work. That's awesome. He wrote Hellraiser, among others. Hail to Nate D. Always great to get the D. I mean, have you here, sir? Yeah. Vince Womack says, happy birthday, Jason. All right. Well, Barker, apparently. So I don't know if any of you guys in the chat have seen Dreamcatcher or not, but I'm trying to wrap my head around what genre we would actually put Dreamcatcher in the context of horror, because it is a horror movie. But what would we? It's technically a horror sci-fi movie, is how they classify it on Google. Right here, horror sci-fi. But I mean, this movie was insane. Like, this was very, like, it tried very hard to be The Thing from to be John Carpenter's The Thing, but at the same time, it was like aliens and shit. It was really weird. It was really, really weird. Jason Fox says it's something. Yeah, and it's really hard for my brain to actually classify what that movie would be. It's another Stephen. I love Stephen King's writing. I'm not gonna lie, he's my favorite horror author of all time. But my favorite works from him isn't technically a horror series. It's The Dark Tower. I mean, it crosses into horror several times, but it doesn't. Anyway, his movies, the stuff they make out of his books is like, I wouldn't even say it's 50-50. It's like a 45-55 on whether or not it's going to be good. Because, like, I liked the Shining adaptation, the original one, Jack Nicholson, but I didn't really care for the one he worked on himself, Stephen King, which was the miniseries, I believe it was, back when it came out. And I thought that one was kind of trash. But I liked the movie. And then you get into things like Langoliers, Thinner, The Stand, and they either vary so drastically from the actual source material that you're like, are we sure this is the actual thing? Like, did he just slap his name on this and say, yeah, you can use the title? And other times it's all like, okay, this was actually fairly dedicated to the source material. And I understand that's the screenwriter, the person who writes the scripts for like screenplay adaptations. That's 99% on them. But what boggles my mind the most is typically when an author is involved in producing the product for the screen, it tends to be better than if it was done without them, without their input in some way, shape, or form. It's the exact opposite with Stephen King. Vince Womack says King didn't like Kubrick version. Well, while I like his writing, I don't really care for his tastes. The guy's a fucking whack job, bro. But it's crazy that it's all backwards with Stephen King, where like when he's involved, it's markedly worse than if he would just stay the hell away. Most of the time, I'll say 70% of the time he's involved, it's bad. But I think my favorite Stephen King adaptation. What would my favorite Stephen King adaptation be? Because it's not The Gunslinger. That was a terrible. Well, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't the source material like usual. Let's see. Favorite Stephen King adaptation. That's tough because I really liked The Langoliers. I liked Cujo. Christine was good, and I don't want to watch the new bullshit ever. Geez, there's a lot that like It. Yeah, I'll say It. When I first saw the movie It, I was literally terrified. I mean, granted, I was 7 years old, but like I refused to take a shower for a while because I thought the drain was gonna open up and I was gonna get eaten by some crazy ass clown. And yeah, that movie terrified the living shit out of me for a while. But it's watching that movie so young is probably the reason I like horror movies, you know? Vince Womack says, my brother gifted me King's JFK book and I still haven't read it. I don't blame you, sir. Not one little bit. Hey, over on the Rumble side, we've got Cremator says, Once Bitten from 1985 with Jim Carrey is a hidden gem. I forgot about that. That's the Jim Carrey vampire movie. Oh my gosh, I need to watch that again. Because you're right, that is a hidden gem, and I forgot it existed until just this moment. Oh my gosh, thank you, Cremator. Cremator also says Stephen King's Dreamcatcher, horror, sci-fi, psychological. Yeah, I would agree with that. It was really strange, but it was still good. Speaking of vampire movies, yo, my favorite vampire movies are, man, I'm gonna have to go with Bram Stoker. Yeah, Dracula. And I know it's not a popular opinion, but I really liked Queen of the Damned. I did. I really did. Vince Womack says that happened to me after watching Psycho. Didn't shower easily for 3 weeks. Yeah, but he says he was way too young for that. I feel that. I feel that. Yeah, my dad thought it would be a great idea if we watched it. While I'm 7 years old. You know, the original miniseries, whatever that is. It a miniseries technically? Yeah. Things get confusing in modern day. They really do. See, but you got to be careful with vampire movies, in my opinion, because you can do them really well, but not really land on the whole vampire thing. You know, like that's how I felt. Hail to Trina from Real Horror. I'm so glad you're here. Hi. If you remember your login for Gilded, or anyone here could send you a link, I could probably. Yep. Good night, John Boy. Um, Hail to Trina. Awesome to have you here. But so with vampire movies, like I didn't really care for Interview with a Vampire. And like I'll watch the movie and I will enjoy it for what it is, but when it comes to vampire stories, that's not really my cup of tea. I'm more of a 30 Days of Night kind of guy, you know. Snail Messiah says Nosferatu was amazing. I watched it on the plane from Canada to Denmark. Truly good, immersive movie. Very good effects. I have to rewatch that one as well. I know I've seen Nosferatu before. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. But um it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And of course, if you're talking about vampire movies, you know, you kind of have to touch on some of the actual actors that were Dracula. So I'm just going to bring up a list of actors who have played Dracula. Gary Oldman, of course, in Bram Stoker's was fantastic. Trina says 30 Days of Night is great, isn't it? And I'm so glad they never tried to do like a sequel. Or did they? They probably did. I don't know. Luke Evans did an okay job, but I don't really, that was not a traditional. Yeah, and of course Bela Lugosi. Oh my gosh, he's fantastic. Christopher Lee was great. Most of you guys probably don't know this one. Morgan Freeman was Dracula. He sung about taking a bath in his casket. I would play it for you, but it's copyrighted. Hail to the Basco scenario. What is up, my homie? Right now we are talking about people who played Dracula, because you know there's been a lot of good Dracula movies. Um, a lot of these guys I don't recognize. Dracula 2000 was a weird one for me. I wanted to like it, but it fell flat in a couple of key areas that I was just eh. I like to take a bath in a casket. Yep, that's so good. Bram Stoker's. I keep saying Stroker. Oh my gosh. Dracula versus Frankenstein. Oh, that's a fat motherfucker. Holy shit. This seems like a list of people who played vampires, not necessarily Dracula. Because, yeah. Die Hard Dracula? What the hell is that? Scooby-Doo. That's great. Vince Womack says, Love at First Bite with George Hamilton was funny, if I remember correctly. And of course, there's Blackula too. I didn't see Blackula in here. Why wasn't Blackula on this list? That's a damn shame and a disappointment because Blackula's the best. I mean, come on, right? No? Probably not. Hail to Boosh McFadden. He says, could have been a voice actor, that fat guy, I mean. Yeah, I kind of figured. Maybe he was skinny, and then that's just a recent picture. Who knows? And hail to Toxic Man Flu. I looked at the chat before I could highlight it. Boop. I know because he's Blackula and he's not Dracula, but whatever. Whatever, homie. It's all good. Man, there were Okay. Favorite horror TV show? I guess technically it was a TV show, but it was more like a collection of short movies. But the Tales from the Crypt. Okay. I was recently browsing, don't remember which streaming service, but I came across Bordello of Blood and like 5 or 6 other Tales from the Crypt movies or whatever. Apparently there were 7 seasons of Tales from the Crypt. I had no idea there were so many. But this was one of my favorite TV shows. Like, holy crap. $3,000 for a life-size statue. Jeez. Yeah. And the Crypt Keeper, like, I mean, it's great that he became president. I mean, I'm really glad that he... Oh, wait, no. And they had such great effects on this show. They honestly did. Like, especially given that it was like late 80s into the early 90s, it was awesome. Back when everything on HBO was awesome. Yeah, that was a long time ago, bro. Long time ago. Let's see. We've talked. I didn't really get into slasher movies, but I mean, I talked about what I considered my favorite slasher movie, but when you get down to slasher movies, those are a very unique genre because slasher movies can be anything from like the individual serial killer. Vince Womack says, be right back. Need to change my underpants after all this horror. Or it's just the coffee. One of the two. I'm betting the coffee. Because this show is definitely not so good it'll make you poop. That's just not a fair assessment of the shows that I do. I'm not so good you poop. That's not how that works. Just saying. And Talk says Blackula was awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street was a great slasher movie. I enjoyed Nightmare on Elm Street more so than Friday the 13th. I'll say that much. The first 2 Halloween movies were, well, the first one was good. The second one was okay. I didn't know what was going on with the third one. I know people have explained it to me before, but at this point, it's a lost cause for me to try and understand why they did that. But, and then like Chucky, Child's Play movies, there's technically slasher monster, because he's technically the demonic possession at that point, of the doll, because dude's so evil he can do that kind of shit with magic. because he's a serial killer who does magic. But slasher movies. See, and when you're talking about horror, it's also important to actually touch on psychological thriller movies too, because Seven is a fantastic movie. Identity, with the fat guy that has the shaky eyes, and yeah, Trina likes Friday the 13th. The first one was not as good in my opinion as the rest, because Jason made the franchise, in my opinion. His mom was, yeah. I didn't care too much for Jason 2000, or not 2000, because I like the one where he was in space. Was it Jason Goes to Hell? That was the bad one. I think that was the bad one. Yeah, I think that was the bad one. Jason X. Yeah, Jason X was that the one in space? Oh my gosh, my brain is breaking. Yes, Jason X is in space. Yes, I liked Jason X. I did not care for Jason Goes to Hell. That one was just kind of stupid. See, and she agrees with me too. She says Jason Goes to Hell was awful. Yes, is awful. Is. Emphasis on is. Yes, indeed. And Leprechaun, because I'm thinking about all these classic genres now, and we're talking about Jason and Freddy, and we're talking about, but like the Leprechaun movies they're so bad that I can't help but watch them repeatedly. I don't know how else to put that. Like, they're in the morbid curiosity zone when it comes to the Leprechaun movies, where you're like, do I want to watch this? Probably not. Am I going to? Yeah. Especially Leprechaun in the Hood. I mean, just saying, there's a lot of blang up in the hood. So many fucking weird ass movies out there. And then, like, the modern craze with horror is all this stupid, like, possession stuff. The Exorcist was great. It's dead now. Leave it alone. The Paranormal Activity movies could have stopped after one. The Conjuring, as a person who's familiar with the story and blah 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 blah, I'd never got into the Conjuring movies. Dude, the Critters series, I'm gonna say it's 50% horror, 50% sci-fi. Okay. And I love every second of Critters. I can't speak to the other movies because I don't remember enough about them. But the moment you brought that up the other day, and I remember they were the little balls of fur that were like, what happens if you give tribbles steroids and meth? Critters. Yeah, I love that movie. It was good. Good. Liked it a lot. I really did. And then, do we count the serial killer movies as horror? Because there's been like 3 million Dahmer movies and a couple billion fucking Bundy movies and blah, 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 blah. But like, Silence of the Lambs is one of the greatest movies of all time. And that's a serial killer movie, but it's not about it. Like, now, those movies, like Silence of the Lambs and stuff, absolutely count as horror movies. But the question is, do the movies about the actual serial killers count? Because they're technically documentaries or mockumentaries, or not technically mockumentary, but you know what I mean. They're based on a true story. So, like, do they count in the horror? Because honestly, I've never watched one of those movies I would even classify as good. but I'm not into those kinds of movies about stuff that I know about, like Son of Sam. I'm not into watching movies about Bundy. I've read his entire file. I don't like watching Dahmer movies or anything like that. I'm not a teenage girl these days with some weird hard on for Dahmer. I don't understand that at all. Never have. Um, I just don't know. I personally wouldn't classify those movies as horror. A fictionalized serial killer is different, in my personal opinion. See, serial killers alone doesn't make it horror. See, I agree with that. And Trina says, in my opinion, not really. They're just drama. Maybe some thriller, not horror, though. And yeah, I agree with both of you. That's why I was kind of on the fence of like, do we talk about those kinds of movies? Because, like, yeah, because Silence of the Lambs is a thriller movie, but it's not technically a horror movie either. So, but he does so good. Man, that's a tough one. I will also go out of my way to say this right fucking now. I don't like The Ring. Grudge was garbage. And I can't even remember the name of the third one that was trash. That everybody was like, oh my gosh. Bush McFadden says, personal opinion is that horror has a supernatural aspect, but there is sci-fi horror like The Thing. Yeah, I can respect that opinion, honestly. Um, then The Fallen, I think it was called, with Denzel and John Goodman, would fall under a horror movie under your definition. Then that was fantastic. That was a great movie. Was that Denzel? I don't know, but I think that was The Fallen. Now I have to Google it again. 2004. Nope, that's a war movie. What the hell am I thinking of? Damn it. Just Fallen. And not the, but Fallen. Okay. Yes. Fallen. 1998. Yes. Thank you. I'm so bad with all that stuff. I don't know why you people watch me. Honestly. It was Fallen. Yes. Vince Womack says Hannibal Lecter versus Pennywise the Clown. Bet Pennywise would win because he tastes funny. But haha. Yeah, it could also be the fact that he's a demon and Hannibal Lecter is a psychiatrist. Whatever. This was a great movie. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. But yeah. Mm-hmm. This is a great one, honestly. Passing by touch. Yeah. So Trina, I'm gonna start up some one-on-one interviews again here soon. Huh. Dad joke level 10. Yes. Vince is good at that. Vince Womack also says Fallen was good. It was. It was really good. But I'm going to start doing one-on-one interviews again on Saturdays. If you can swing a Saturday at any point this month, I would love to get together with you and talk horror movies. If need be, you can reach me through my email and we can establish a better form of communication over at sir.toxalot.yt@gmail.com. Indeed. That's how that works. Then says he has it somewhere, not on DVD or Blu-ray. Yeah. Oro. Yep, Cremator over on the Rumble side. I'm sorry I keep coming in so late to your. I'm not used to. I wish it was integrated. Anyway, Alien is a sci-fi horror too. It is a great sci-fi horror movie. Sweet. Yeah, definitely hit me up through the email, and we can establish a better way to talk and stuff. Faux show, because I'm not getting back on Twitter. Not doing it. And I haven't used a Facebook product in quite a while. Or anything like that. You know. Just saying. So tomorrow's review is going to be on Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. Oh, sweet. She's in Gilded right now. Nice. That's awesome. I like that. Good job. I gotta just checking. All right. So we can chat through Gilded about having you on, talk about some horror movies soon. I'm going to be doing the one-on-one interviews again, as I've been saying, and this is just so everyone is aware that so Mondays are going to be a mixture of the entertainment stream like we're doing right now and mental health Mondays every other week. So we can talk about mental health stuff that we need to vent about, or concepts, etc., etc. Saturdays I will be moving to the one-on-one interview formats mostly. I will still have panels and stuff. But Monday nights going to stay Dick's News US. Thursdays going to stay Dick's News International. Those aren't changing. Yeah. We're almost done with this stream. So I have a nice question for the chat, since we have some fun people in the chat. Okay. What is in your opinion, the most underrated horror movie of all time? Yeah. What is the most underrated horror movie of all time? Yeah. Personally, I'm going to have to go with the Wishmaster series for sure. They're criminally underrated. They were great. Vince says Showgirl. That's fair. Snail Messiah says The Cable Guy. Again, I won't argue with you about that being horrible, or at least horrible. That's my least favorite Jim Carrey movie. I fucking hate The Cable Guy. That is a terrible movie. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, Snail Messiah. Oh, Monster. If Trina says Phantasm. The Phantasm series is my favorite series of movies. Yeah. They're great. I love the little balls, and then like the nasty yellow comes out. You're like, what the fuck? It was crazy. Vince Womack says Bubba Hotep count? I don't think so. Bush McFadden says Event Horizon. That was a crazy movie. Once again, my dad turned me onto that one. Hardcore. Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank. Hail. He says, I'll have to catch the replay. Please do. And I would also love to. I'm going to send you some messages, but I'd love to have a one-on-one with you, Mr. Tank. Yes, sir. Vince Womack says Event Horizon was fantastic. He says Bush McFadden says Event Horizon was wrecked by the critics and it was a box office flop. Yeah, if people would have known not to trust critics. She says, ooh, Bubba Hotep. That's a great pick. And she meant pick like that, but still. My dad turned me on sick, hardcore Cory. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My dad turned me on to it. Damn it, Bush. You're such a boob. Seriously. So much fun, but 90% of the time, just the useless sack of fat. That's a joke, Bush. Calm down. Boosh. Boosh. Hail to John Edgar. He says, greetings, y'all. Just got here for a quick work break. Sorry, I missed this one. Hey, we're going to be talking pretty much horror movies throughout this month. So it's awesome. I don't know, Boosh. I don't know. It was the mid-90s. People didn't love, didn't have. I don't know. I'm done. I'm going to go do something else. I have no idea what, because I have a billion things I need to do, but none of them that I want to do. But ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sexy, don't get murdered, and as always, have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.